So, welcome. My name is Stephanie, and this is the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that is committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles as introduced by Sidney Banks to people throughout the world. And on that note, I have a special announcement for you. If you haven't seen already, there is a brand new webinar that's happening. It's called A New Vision for 3PGC, happening on June 24th at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. That is 7 o'clock in the evening, UK time, with Natasha Swerdloff and Deborah Barron. They will be talking about the new membership at 3PGC. And if you've been considering that membership or have questions about it, that's a great time to go. So just a quick reminder about it. And now I'm very happy to introduce our hosts for today, Bill and Connie DeKramer. They will be talking about difficulties are doorways to who we really are. And just a bit about Bill and Connie. If you haven't met them already, they're just wonderful, loving people. And they told me that they were on a spiritual search for 30 years before they met the principles, and they were always looking for something more. And the joke they found out is that what they were looking for, they found within themselves. And these days, they coach people. They help them to restore health and lose weight with whole foods, plant-based eating, and coaching programs. So, Bill and Connie, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. Over to you.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. That was lovely. And welcome, everybody. Yeah, it's great to have you with us. We've been looking forward to this. I guess why we've been looking forward to this is that for the longest time, it seemed like difficulties were things that had to be wrestled with. You know, you had a problem and you had to do something with it. And so, like Stephanie said, we've been helping people for a long time restore health and lose weight naturally. And that was, of course, perceived as a problem when they would come to us. And so we had to fix that, and then we'd get that fixed. And then sometimes we would see them, some of the clients, like 6 months or a year later, and the problem was back. So, okay, we've got to deal with the problem again. Then we met the principles. And what was so wonderful was how, as we began to incorporate the principles into helping people with, these physical issues in their lives, the solution was them beginning to see that the way they could shift their life in a lasting way, make lasting change in their lives for the positive, was in relaxing into and understanding the nature of who they really are and how life works. Because what was so often driving, poor eating habits or whatever, was the stress in their lives. We were always trying to deal with the food. That'll fix it. And of course, the food made a difference, but sometimes they couldn't stay with it because of stress. And then, of course, it's just our misinterpretation of what's happening in life. So the power of thought to believe that, this is a problem, it's a real thing, I got to wrestle with this. When as we begin to understand more and more of who we really are, it's like, what problem? So, yeah, we thought we would start. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that's good.
We thought we'd start by asking you what you hear in that statement. Difficulties are a doorway to who we really are. Just unmute yourself if you have anything, or raise your hand.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from everyone. Don't be shy. Share with us. Maybe Patty, you'd start.
Or not.
Yeah, Michael? Michael, do you want to say something, sweetheart? You need to unmute yourself. You're muted, everyone.
Oh,
Oh,
yep.
he's eating too.
Oh,
Okay.
he's
Uh-huh. We do that too. Well, maybe we just start there.
Yeah.
You want to share,
sure.
like, all of our lives, we used to see difficulties as difficulties, and the goal of life was to eliminate difficulties as they came up, because fewer difficulties meant greater happiness, but it's an endless cycle, of course. So, yeah, we began to then see that difficulties were doorways, and maybe you want to share.
Yeah, how this really came home to me. It was so beautiful and so uncomfortable, both. We were living in a spiritual community, in a spiritual home with a group of people in California, San Francisco area. And I got really clearly that the answer was within. This constant searching for more would be never ending and wouldn't lead to what the possibility was in life. And I wanted to move back to Canada as a result, leave the spiritual community, move back to Canada. And Bill didn't. He loved being there. So I tried all my tactics and coercing and yelling and shouting and whatever. None of it worked, by the way, which was a good thing. And I had a very deep sadness because I saw it could mean the end of our relationship. And I'm not usually in a sadness place, but I was definitely in that, and was walking down the street crying, 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 and feeling this pain within. And all of a sudden, I let that go. And I saw that I would be fine no matter what Bill decided. Whether he came, whether he stayed, made no difference. And that gave me an even greater level of letting go. And in that, my mind went very completely still. And it's maintained itself in that stillness for many years. And so I thought, Bill decided to come to Canada. I thought, well, he'll just get me set up and then he'll go back there. But I really was okay with it, no matter what occurred. And fortunately, we stayed together. And so, in looking at that circumstance, the greatest gift in it was the still mind. And seeing so clearly that truth didn't exist in the mental mind, that it existed deeper within each of us. It came from what you might label as a very difficult, I certainly did, situation. It was the entrance, the doorway to seeing more of who I really was and to living from that. So what could be better? And then as years went on, I looked back at my life and I saw the moments of defined difficulty always led me to more of who I was. But they were gifts. They were beautiful, beautiful moments that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I'm 80, so I have a lot of years to look back on and really reflect. Are difficulties a problem, or are they a gift? And they're a gift. I'm convinced of that to the bone. I don't have any question. And my life when I started out was quite difficult, but it became easier and easier, but always this yearning for more, for who I really was. And then there it was. And then we moved back to Canada and I met Sidney Banks' work, this understanding. And in listening to him, I saw everything I'd experienced was what he was describing. So we ran into Dr. Amy Johnson on a summit, and listening to her, I thought, wow, she is talking about something so different around the body and weight. So we connected with her and became change coaches, and we just love her, and we love everything we've experienced. My life, I am so in love with life. Life is so beautiful and precious and generous. And I was looking at food a couple of days ago and seeing the love that fills food, the love that fills everything, all of us, who we are, and just being more deeply grateful for food, for having the experience of being nurtured and nourished by life on every level, even the most physical. So that's my story about why every difficulty that we perceive as a difficulty is really the greatest gift that we can have. And it doesn't look that way at the moment, for sure. And we may have emotions and we may have all kinds of reactions, but in time, as we look back, I encourage you to reflect on your own lives and see if what I experience isn't as true for you as it is for me. And then you begin to welcome everything that life brings, even though in the moment you may not think it's the most ideal. You just welcome life and look to see what gift it's bringing. It's a flipping upside down of the way I used to live, which was, how do I control this? How do I make this happen the way I think it should, which never worked out, by the way. So we'd love to hear from everyone and you too.
So yeah, difficulties are doorways. Like Connie was saying, the kind of general assumption about how life works is shit happens, and then you gotta do what you can to fix it. And when we begin to understand the principles, as Syd has pointed out, the nature of life just really does get turned upside down. I mean, I was thinking about Syd's experience, that started all of this, and how what took him to the retreat where the fella said to him something like, you're not insecure, Syd, you just think you are, or something like that. And what Syd heard in that was that, oh, it's just thought. In that moment, he saw the power of thought. He saw that principle clearly that he had never seen before. And I think he said something like, he didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights after having that insight. It was that profound to have gone through your life, and apparently he didn't have a really pleasant childhood and was constantly believing he was insecure and had all the reasons for being insecure, all the difficulties in his life that had occurred. And then just seeing that whole experience of difficulty was just a reflection of the power of thought, was just that that there is this nature of life, these 3 principles that are responsible for our experience. And when we see the principles, we see through the apparent illusion that a difficulty is real and solid, like he felt his insecurity was. But then, of course, I think it was 3 days later, he and his wife went to Salt Spring Island, if I recall this correctly, and they were visiting his mother-in-law. And I think Syd was listening to them talk in the kitchen, and he was seeing it through this new insight that they were just, talking thoughts and believing their thoughts. And he saw it humorous, and he started to laugh. And I guess it kind of annoyed his mother-in-law, who kind of came out and, "What are you laughing at?" And oh, now I'm in trouble. How do I explain this, So again, it was this difficulty that had him, I think he said he turned to the window, and somehow he was like just being pulled down this tunnel and was suddenly just enveloped in white light, this buzzing white light. And he said, in that moment, I realized the meaning of God. So, I mean, you had a still mind. I mean, he realized the meaning of God. So again, it's like life is always inviting us to look more deeply at the truth of what is here in every moment. And it, of course, doesn't happen for many that we turn and get enveloped in white light, realizing the meaning of God. But I have to say that coming across this understanding through the work of Syd and others since him, it has provided that ease through life that allows me not to get tripped up with the apparent difficulties that show up. And it's interesting how, my brain has kind of restructured its relationship with life as a result, so that now when that kind of tension that used to come up as, oh, there's a problem, I've got to solve something, there's like this little awareness in the back that is like, oh no, this is an invitation, like Connie was saying. Instead of it being a difficulty that's going to make my life hard and this is, I'm going to be miserable for a while, it's like, oh, this is invitation to see something differently than the way I've been seeing it. It's like an invitation to see how I'm using the power of thought to believe something that simply isn't true about who I really am, this formless spiritual energy that Syd points out, the divine mind that we all are, and how life really works. How through the power of thought, power of consciousness, power of divine mind, these three principles, my experience is created. And if I understand that that's the nature of how my experience is created, I no longer have to be afraid of my experience, because it's just the unfolding of these natural principles in life. And it changes everything to where if I think there's someone's used a certain tone of voice and I start going into old childhood, I'm in trouble now. Instead of it being a trigger to become defensive and justify what I've done, and no, I'm okay. Don't make me wrong. It's like, oh, look at what my mind is doing. It's bringing up these feelings because I'm misinterpreting that. I've done something wrong, and it's just the power of thought, believing. Like Syd was believing he's an insecure individual. It's like, as soon as I start to see through that belief that's got me triggered in some way, it just opens up. It's just like that whole old pattern of being triggered and needing to defend myself and all the rest of it is unnecessary.
Well, we've talked enough. We want to hear from you. And, we're always experiencing who we really are every day. It happens again and again. I saw that so clearly. And what keeps it in place, I was hearing this from someone this morning, is effort. The belief that we need to be effortful. So where are the areas in your lives that you're still efforting? Maybe we can start there. Is there an area where effort is still predominant for you? Let's unravel and play together in this idea that difficulties can be our greatest gifts. Would someone like to share? Diane, I haven't met you. Where do you come from, dear? And
It
yeah.
takes me a while to figure this out. I'm an awakening tech dino here. I'm just outside of Seattle right now. And the title, it intrigued me because I just have a sense that it's true, you know, and and there's just been lots of difficulties in the last while, but always I have a glimmer of hope, and that a glimmer that that's not all there is.
Mm.
And it's hopeful. Like, I mean, going up and down. Like, I think my biggest thing is just being hard on myself that I'm stuck in depression or in, you know, what do I do or whatever in the situation. And then again, glimmers are what I'm living by, glimmers here, that there's more to life than what I see or where I am right now. And that just have faith in that it's going to be okay. You know, I don't know how things will be, but that it's okay. And just to be, and then I just calm down. That thing you always said about effort. Everything seems an effort, you know, lately. And I mean, just to get up out of bed, it's like, I don't want to. But anyway, but there's no answer in that, you know. There's just, it's too hard. It's not easy. And I was really, I don't know, just, it's just, but thank you for asking me, because I was just about to think, oh, jeepers, I can't talk.
We always think that.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, what do I got to say? But anyway, but thank you for that. And no, I just think you guys are great.
Okay.
So yeah, anyway.
Such a pleasure to meet you. And I love what you said about somehow I know things will get better, because that's the nature of the thought we have. Illuminates or creates our problems. It's always moving if we don't grab onto it and make it more than it is.
Yeah.
That was very wise what you said. Beautiful. Did you want to respond to her?
Yeah, Diane, what came to my mind when you said I'm living by glimmers, I love that. And what is it, do you think, that allows that glimmer to get your attention?
Oh, well, because that's what life really is, you know. And I'm just kind of stuck in stuff right now. and but I mean, I know that I guess because for in one part of the situation, like I don't know, I guess I woke up enough or I heard something, but you know, I never know what I hear. and 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 everything was still all the same, but excuse me, I had some calmness and clarity, and it was like about a week, you know. And then all of a sudden I woke up and it was like, where did it go? Like, I want it back. I can handle everything when I'm in this calm situation. But anyway, but like, I know, Bill, that I mean, that's truly life, really, it, I'm taken care of and it'll all work out. It's just, I get stuck and and that word effort is a big word, isn't it? It's like, oh gosh. But I mean, I know I'm just stuck now. I'm not, it's not the end, like woe's me kind of thing. But I just, I'm just this talking with you guys is just awakening more gentleness in myself, with myself, in the situation. And so for that, I'm very thankful. Okay, somebody else talk.
Well, yeah, okay, I'll talk.
Let me off the hook, guys. Come on. No, but thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
I really love what I hear you saying, Diane, that when you say, I know this is what the nature of life is, it's very apparent in your voice and your clarity that you do.
Ah,
That glimmer has really taken hold. And isn't it interesting how we can still kind of get knocked off center with old thinking, old belief, old thoughts that come up. And it's been such a habit to believe these thoughts that we can't quite see through it yet. But you've seen through so much already.
oh,
The feeling that you refer to, that glimmer provides. Syd would often talk about it. It's not the content, it's not the thinking, it's the feeling we're looking for. That refer to that glimmer and that feeling, that knowing how life works. I think that's the feeling that Syd was always pointing us back to. That's the key.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of clients that I work with, they begin to have these insights, and those habitual thoughts, they come and they seem to grab us again. But it's just recognizing the nature of those thoughts that grab us, those things that come up that have us feeling like it takes so much effort to deal with this. That is the nature of the power of thought, believing that that happens to be true. Because I can see you've kind of got both paradigms going. Life is effortless. Life is just living me. And there's all of these issues in my life, and it makes things so hard. It's just allowing that to unfold. It seems like the momentum, the tide is moving in the right direction here.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is really helpful to me is to recognize that thinking about something is efforting.
Oh,
That's effortful. Thanks so much, Diane, for sharing. It's wonderful.
thanks,
KC,
guys.
where are you from? KC.
Sorry, I am driving, so you'll hear me. I hopefully don't have too much background noise.
Sure.
I am in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah, originally Chicago, but been here for a while. First of all, thank you so much. This has been my first real interaction with you two, and it's been really lovely listening. I noticed just kind of one thing that came up, especially recently. I'm a physical therapist and coach, but I was working with somebody, have been working with him for a while, and he's a lovely human being that is so smart and intellectual. And I find myself working my butt off trying to intellectually, I realized this yesterday, convince him. And like I really realized it just reflecting on it. Like, oh, I'm trying to like beat him at his own game for him to see something. I'm like, clearly that's not working. Because I just it's it's not getting through, but I think I am seeing more at least, of maybe why it's not. And I think it's because I am coming from this place of efforting rather than this place of presence. And deep knowing, because one of the things we talked about is like, well, you keep you keep thinking things need to be a certain way in order for you to be okay. And then when I was reflecting on it, I was like, well, I'm thinking that he's not okay until he figures this out. And I'm like, well, that's not.
Very good.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you guys just bring that up, and I've been on that own little personal journey with it this last week or so. So that's just what comes to mind based on your question of reflection. So
Well, what comes to my mind, if I were working with this guy, one thing that might be fun to play in with him is I would really compliment him on his intellectual prowess, and that's impressive, no matter who it is who shares it. And creativity comes from that effortless place of who we are. And he can take that mental acuity and really play in it in a way that has amazing outcome, from being more willing to visit the place of wisdom within and let wisdom guide his action, and then use that mental acuity behind that guidance to create amazing things. That's
yeah,
how
that's
I,
a really
that's how I see it, sweetheart.
yeah, I love that compliment of the two, the form and the formless. So I appreciate that. I think sometimes I struggle with how to balance that, and there's no right way. I think I can overthink it for sure, and that was a really natural, effortless way of connecting them. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. And oh, you want to talk? Sorry. Go.
We have our little system down here. If I touch her leg, it's like, let me talk. Yeah, so Casey, I think that's wonderful. This reminds me of some of the clients that I've had as well, and actually reflecting on my own life, because I had invested so much in my intellectual prowess, so to speak.
True. You're very smart.
Oh, and I had so much recognition for it. In elementary school, I was in the mentally gifted minors program. They were just, and then accepted at a prestigious university, and everyone's, you're so smart, and so that's who I was, and I had to maintain the value of that investment. So as I was on this spiritual quest, there was this pull, to move, discover this inner resource, because like Diane was saying, there was this glimmer, there's so much more than this intellect, but I was so invested in the intellect, I felt like I could get there through the intellect. So I spent 30 years trying to get there intellectually. And what's beautiful is that, coming across the principles in Syd's work, being able to look back at the teachers I'd been with and to see so clearly they were telling me everything I needed to hear, but for some reason I heard it with Syd and I didn't hear it with them. And it was just, being able to see through my belief that the intellect needed to be in the driver's seat to make my life work. And yet having had such a glimmer of the fact that it's when I let go of the intellect that I have access to that more hidden resource that is a source of real creativity and joy. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I think now when I find myself trying to work this intellectual client into a corner where I've got him intellectually, so he's got to see the truth. It's more beginning to ask questions, to understand more about his relationship with the hidden resource, with the wisdom, what Connie referred to as our wisdom, because I feel like we've all had that taste. And yet for some of us, we're so invested in the intellect because we've had such reinforcement and acknowledgement for that feels so good. We tend to diminish that which is that much deeper. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but looking for that.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think that speaks to his experience quite a bit, you know, so he very much sees his value as a human being on his intellect and what it's done for him, and how, you know, the accolades and all that goes with it, you know, finances, etc., that come with it, you know. And so I really love the idea of creating more reflection, you know. And I will say I think I did a slightly better job of pausing more and not talking quite as much in our last conversation. But what I definitely realized is, like, if I'm not letting go, how can he? You know, if I'm not letting go and knowing that he is okay no matter what, then it's not that there's no way that he can, but it's going to be harder for him, right? Or at least that's kind of where I'm sitting with now. And both of what you guys said just I think helps me see that a little bit more clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So thank you.
What I'm aware of it, and you're sharing that too, Casey, is how, I mean, the title is Difficulties Are a Doorway to Who We Really Are. And I think that's one half of the equation. I think the full equation is every moment is an invitation to step into the truth of who we really are, to come from there. And so one of the things I love about coaching, which I hear you saying, is that by coaching another person, we learn more about ourselves as well. We discover who we really are more and more through the reflection that they're giving us in their lives. So it's such a wonderful dance to have the opportunity to coach and to share this understanding, and in that gain this deeper recognition for ourselves as well. It's so cool. Beautiful.
And you made a really good point when I can just rest in that wisdom that I am as I coach. That's where all the creative genius comes from. And we know exactly what to say when.
Yeah, and I realize, again, just to reiterate, like, I've been trying to play his game, like, oh, what's the right thing to say? But then, you know, again, I'm playing here rather than here. And, like, let's be honest, I'm not going to win this game against that guy. I'm just not, you know? And so, like, stop playing it, you know? Like, okay. Yeah. So thank you for your reflections.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing and for being here. Patricia, what about you, sweetheart? Where are you today? Where are you calling us from?
From Miami.
Miami. She's in the same place. Yeah. Anything you want to share? We'd love to hear from you, sweetie.
I'm recovering from COVID, so my brain is a little foggy. Or so I don't have questions about difficulty being opportunities. Hopefully I'll understand that on the replay because right now it's not. But something that did catch my attention was my intellect gets very confused between Sidney Banks and Amy Johnson. And do they dovetail? Are they different? I get really confused about that.
What, is there a particular point that you find confusing?
Well, yeah, let's just say, look for a feeling. If you have thoughts that aren't giving you good feelings, don't give them energy. Your mind is your personal mind is creating them. They're generally lies, let them go. But then with Amy, I hear embrace the feeling, lean into the feeling, feel the feeling. Where I don't know that Syd would say that, I could be wrong. And I was just wondering, Connie, if you could speak to that.
Yeah.
Is a 3P practitioner the same as a change coach? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a really good question because Syd kind of gives an overview when he talks about look for a feeling. What do you think he means by that? When he said, what kind of feeling are we looking for?
Well, I always got confused by that too, because when I look for a feeling and I'm not feeling good, I look and I don't find. But so I get confused about that. But that's okay, because I know that those feelings will pass and I'll be realigned with the truth. It's almost like you get an epiphany, you just get woken up again. It's very beautiful. I guess that's the feeling. But
Yeah.
sometimes it comes on its own. Sometimes I don't feel I have agency over it. Sometimes you have to let it pass,
Yeah. Well, to me, what I get from his saying, look for a feeling, is he's talking about returning to our true nature. That feeling that is present in our true nature is very, we all know it, it's very rested, very quiet, and it can be extremely joyful, and it can be filled with love. Yeah, and I think what Amy is taking us to in encouraging us to feel the feeling. One is to welcome whatever arises, which I don't know that Syd talks about that, but I think he would be in agreement with welcoming whatever arises. And that when we go into the pure energy of any feeling, it takes us to that place of who we really are. We see nothing, basically. We see the pure energy of life, or we feel it, or we sense it, and that is our true nature. So in a way, they're both headed in the same place. Amy is using an often difficulty to take us to that place of true nature. That's how I see it, Patricia.
Yes, yes. When you say that, it just occurred to me that the quote unquote feeling, the distressing feelings, to welcome them, those quote unquote difficult feelings, they are a doorway to opportunity. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. I thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you for your honesty and curiosity, because I know that can be confusing, but the end result seems to me to be the same thing.
Right. Are you going to pat her leg, Bill?
Right. Is he going to say something?
Well, Patricia, Between the two of us, one of us always has a lot more to say than the other one. Get the hook out of it and then pull me off stage.
Uh,
No, I think what Connie's saying, you know, they're both pointing in the same direction. And, you know, when we first came across Amy, I don't know, 7 years ago or so, it was all about thought, you know, just a thought, her book, Just a Thought, and the little book of Big Change is all about our thinking and the nature of the mind. And it seems to me, following her evolution with her teaching, she has noticed that some people take that concept, just a thought, and it gets so intellectualized. And so for some, it kind of works to get into the feeling. If I can feel the feeling that's there with my thought, I can, like Connie was saying, get beyond that label of them feeling anger or whatever. If I can just see what is this feeling actually, it takes us to that place of no thought, no mind that Syd refers to as that place where we are free.
mhm,
Oh, yeah, I think we're pointing in the same direction, and Amy has kind of evolved into being willing to explore moving into the nature of who we are
mhm,
through the sense of feeling,
Mhm.
just
mhm,
awareness of thought. But I think it's all because it is all form. Syd and the 3P practitioners are often saying when we talk about thought and principles, it's not just the sentences in our minds, it's not just the commentator that's going on. Thought in the three principles in form is all that is in form. So for Syd, when he's talking about thought, my understanding is that he's also referring to my feelings as fitting into that category of that principle of thought.
mm,
Is thought. So I don't think there's a huge division, but certainly the way Amy talks about it now is quite different from the way Syd has, you know, the history that we have of Syd with his videos and his books, the way he talks about it.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, do you want to share? Where are you located, Michael?
Hi,
I
Connie.
Hi.
Sweden.
That's it. Yes, Sweden.
Yeah.
We love Sweden.
I don't
And
have anything.
okay, great.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So.
Yeah, I was so impressed. Sunday I do this heartfelt presence session, and Michael shared, and he's had such a beautiful experience of who he is.
Mm.
So thank you for that, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for remembering. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, hi.
Well, hi, Bill and Connie. Hi, Stephanie. I'm joining a little late, but I'm here. And yeah, you know, the previous thing that we were talking about, you know, Syd saying looking within, the way I have come to see that is, or the way that I heard it from Syd is that he would often say in his lectures, don't listen to my words.
Mm.
And he would, but then he would try to explain the principles and talk about them. And then I sort of heard him say, well, just forget all that. Just look within for a nice feeling. And so to me, that's just, it doesn't matter what you find when you look within. I used to get a little hung up on, well, what is he talking about? What is the nice feeling? But it's just the fact, if we are looking within, we're looking the only place that's going to do us any good. And it doesn't matter what we find, to be honest. We look within, and I will say my experience is almost always within 2 seconds, there's a good feeling that comes up. And it's just there. And if there's something else there, it just kind of floats away. And so the looking, you know, it's interesting. When I first heard Syd, I didn't really react to him very much. I reacted to all the people who are doing these webinars in my very start. But then after I had my, you know, what I experienced, I came back, I listened to Syd, and now the look within is all I need. And it's the most powerful thing I've ever heard in my life from anyone. So that's just, it's a gift. Whatever you find is a gift. So
I love it, Tom. Thank you for sharing it.
And what I hear in that too, Tom, is such a description of how difficulties are this doorway. How unless there's a negative feeling or emotion coming up, I'm not even aware that I've got this filter that I'm seeing life through that's distorted in terms of the way life really is unfolding. And so it's only in that difficulty that it's kind of that tap on the shoulder or even a little shaking, like stop, just stop for a moment. And in that stopping, being willing to open and curious, like, what's wrong with this picture? Asking that question, what's wrong with this picture even, can take us back to seeing clearly through the contaminated thought. Syd will talk about the contaminated thought that produces the negative feeling. Mm-hmm. So it's only in the difficulty that, or also the opportunity in the difficulty, is that it gets our attention in a way that makes us want to stop doing what we're doing and see the truth.
yeah, that's very well said. It's just like a wake-up call to show that our mind has gone down a dark alley and we don't want to go there. So it wakes us up. We can come back. Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a kind of a general thought, and I certainly bought into it. Like, life is making this happen to me. Life is happening to me, So when things aren't good, it's like, oh, life kind of chose to give me this test, and life's testing me, and it's a challenge. And more I see that life is never testing me or giving me a challenge so much as life is presenting itself as it is, in the perfection that it is. And what's being tested is the lens I'm seeing it through. If it feels like a test or a challenge, it's created by this distorted, contaminated thought, however you want to say it. So it's in this kind of this neutral unfolding of a circumstance in my life. If it feels like a test or a challenge or a difficulty, it's not life giving me a challenge. It's life showing up in a way that through my distorted filters, it feels like a challenge. So that's the invitation to the challenge to look at, to open to. How am I seeing this? What am I seeing this through? What is my thinking here? Or what is my feeling? How can I purify, get back to that pure vision of what's occurring right now?
Yeah, what I'm seeing more and more is life is always infilling everything with love. That's all that's happening. And I never knew that. I mean, I never saw that before. I'm beginning to see it. It's so beautiful. And if it's other than that, it's just a label I put on it from my mental thinking that's not real.
Yeah, it's just the way it looks when I see it through a personal lens.
Yeah.
The more that personal lens, our personal thinking, it becomes aligned with what really is, what the truth of what life is, the perfection of the unfolding of what is. Like we live kind of up in a natural area here in Kelowna in British Columbia, Canada, a lot of trees. And there was a wildfire that came through last year, and it's like we had to evacuate. We could lose our home, the whole thing. And it was so interesting because both of us, when we were driving down the mountain, we had like 15 minutes to get everything important and leave. I mean, literally the RCMP rang the doorbell. Oh no, it was a neighbor, but the RCMP were right there too. They basically said, you've got 15 minutes, you got to get out. So it's like, oh really? Oh really? You're going to lose everything in 15 minutes. Move it. But as we were driving down the hill, with this possibility of losing all of these personal possessions, neither of us felt any distress. It was just like not much different than we're going down to visit friends. Now, there was different thinking going on for sure, but it's so different when there, the more we get grounded in this understanding that life is unfolding perfectly. So there's nothing nothing needs to change for me to be okay. So we're driving down the hill, possibly losing everything. And it's like, well, we just know it'll all work out. So we're so grateful to Syd for his willingness to continue to share with all of us this beautiful insight that he had and this beautiful beingness that he came from. And I know, Stephanie, we want to end on time, so we don't want to go too long here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Dylan, Connie, thank you so much. And would you like to give the best place people can go to find out what you're up to if they're interested in your coaching?
Yeah, it's our website. It's kind of our business card, and it's called amazinghealtheffortlessly.com.
Oh,
And,
I like it.
We got that title before we had the understanding, but in a way, we got that title because we saw that if we give our bodies what they need, it does all the heavy lifting. So it's amazing health effortlessly. And in a way, the principles are that same thing. When we begin to see the nature of how life works, we don't have to do anything. It's effortless to experience the beauty that life is. It's really undoing all of the stuff that I was doing to try and make life beautiful and happy.
The effort.
The effort.
Yeah, what a gorgeous invitation. Thank you so much. And a final public service announcement. Again, I want to remind people, some people came in later, that there is a new 3PGC webinar happening on June 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time with Natasha Swerdloff and Deborah Barron. They're talking about a new vision for 3PGC, and we'll be answering questions about the new membership. If you're interested, if you have questions, please attend. And thank you so much again, Bill and Connie. It's been a great pleasure. Wonderful to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.